Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1183B, and today's date is January 20th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Prepare for the Pain as the System Erases the False Economy, Governance, and Power. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, yesterday we reported that Julian Assange was not going to be coming to the United States after the deal with Chelsea Manning, because he's saying that the Obama administration didn't live up to their end of the bargain. Now, today on a live press conference on Periscope, Assange once again confirmed that he stands by everything I said, including the offer to go to the United States if Chelsea Manning's sentence was commuted. And he says, we look forward to having a conversation with the Department of Justice about what the correct way forward is. So it looks like he might have changed his mind right now, and he might now come to the United States. We'll have to see what happens right now, because it looks like he's flip-flopping back and forth. Now, George Soros was out in Davos, and he was speaking, and he said something very interesting. He said the euphoria among stock investors since the victory of Donald Trump will end as uncertainty takes over. Soros said that the uncertainty is at a peak, and actually uncertainty is the enemy of long-term investment. I don't think the markets are going to do very well. Right now, they're still celebrating, but when reality comes, it will prevail. Now, remember, Soros lost about $1 billion as a result of the stock market rally spurred by Trump. He thought it was going to go the opposite way. And we can see right now that he is telegraphing that the stock market is going to be coming down. So does he know something we don't? He also said that I have described him, Trump, as an imposter and a con man and a would-be dictator. I am personally convinced he's going to fail because the policies that guide him are inherently self-contradictory. So already we have individuals out there saying how he's going to fail. What they're really saying is that he's not going along with their agenda. So they're going to try to push him to fail. And most likely, they're going to bring the economy down around him. And this way they can point their finger and say, see, he failed. Now, Obama came out during a press conference, and he actually admitted that the DNC emails were not hacked, they were leaked, and there wasn't conclusive evidence that Russia actually hacked anything. And he said this during a press conference, quote, conclusions of the intelligence community with respect to the Russian hacking were not conclusive as to whether WikiLeaks was witting or not in being the conduit through which he heard about the DNC emails that were leaked. Now, to Craig Murray, who's an author and broadcaster, Obama's comment clarified that the U.S. government has no evidence of how WikiLeaks got the DNC material. Obama's statement is important, Murray continues, because it undermines the stream of completely evidence-free nonsense that has been emerging from the intelligence services this last 2 months, in which a series of suppositions have been strung together to make unfounded assertions that have been repeated again and again in the mainstream media. And we can see right now, they never had any evidence. It was all a ploy. It was a lie. That's why they can't produce anything. And every time they say they were going to produce something, they never did. Now, during the inauguration, CNN did something very odd. They did a whole report on what happens if Trump gets assassinated. And it's very odd because they went down and they were saying that if Trump and Pence were assassinated, Obama administration, they'd be able to stay in power. And what's very interesting about all this, did they ever do this about when Obama was becoming president or Bush was becoming president? No. They never did this before. They only did it now, which is very odd and strange. I mean, they're really working overtime on the assassination narrative, which tells us, are they planning something? Because all we're hearing from John Kerry with his ominous message that Trump is going to be in the White House maybe 1-2 years, whatever. Soros is saying that he's going to fail. And we have many others that saying he's not going to make it. I mean, do they know something that we don't? Are they planning something? Now, everyone is out there and they're making a big deal that Trump is now taking down pages, changing the whitehouse.gov. And of course he is. There's a new president in office. Everything that was on that site was from the previous president. The new president, well, he has his own ideas, his own agenda. He doesn't have to keep whatever is on there if he doesn't agree. And most of it he doesn't agree with. And people are making a big deal that the climate change page was taken down. Well, that was the government's push to convince us that man was responsible for global warming. Because the end game of all that was a carbon tax. They tried this in many different countries. And it failed in some places. Other places it went on. And then finally the people said, we're not paying this. This is ridiculous. And we can see this is why Obama, right before he left office, gave another $500 million to the UN. So we can see right now that, yes, Trump is going to change the website. He's going to take Obama's pictures off. He's going to take Obama's agendas off. And he's going to put his on there. It's just like a CEO who takes over a company or anything else. Guess what? They're not going to do it like the other CEO. They're going to do it their way. But people don't like this. And they're making a really big deal about it. Now, when Trump was campaigning to be president, he made a remark that NATO members, they weren't paying their fair share. And it turns out that this is absolutely true. Because when we look at the NATO members, most NATO members, well, they're spending less than 2% of their GDP on defense. And we can see right now that most of them are around 1% or 1.2%, while the U.S. is paying 3.6%. So he's kind of right that these NATO members aren't carrying their weight. They want protection, but they're not paying for it. And since he said that, we see that the European nations, well, they are now boosting their military budgets because we can see what's going to happen here. The U.S. is going to cut back, and these other countries are going to have to pay out to keep NATO operational. And when we look at some of these countries, we see Spain was paying 0.9%. We see Germany was paying 1.2%. Italy was paying 1.1%. Norway was paying 1.5%. So we see right now that they were not paying what the U.S. was paying. Actually, Canada was paying 1%. So we can see right now things are going to dramatically change at this point. Now, Obama put out his drone report, and he kind of omitted civilians being killed. Now, from many other reports, well, they kind of contradict what he says. And there are numerous reports that point to a much higher number than what he's reporting. Like in Afghanistan, one of the drone hits in a certain province killed 17 civilians. In another province in Afghanistan, there were 13 civilians killed. So we're seeing a contradiction right now, and what the government likes to do, they feel if they omit the information, it's really not lying. Now, before Obama left office, he was going on and how Russia didn't want to negotiate about cutting nuclear arms. And the Kremlin is out there saying they completely disagree with what Obama is saying. They were always ready to negotiate nuclear arms and cutting them. And Russia is continually saying, well, you kept on placing sanctions on us. You could have done what Trump is doing, saying, listen, I'll reduce the sanctions if you cut your nuclear weapons. But Obama, he never approached Russia and never did anything. He just really ignored them. And we can see that this happened quite a bit while Obama was president, especially in Syria, when Russia wanted to work with the United States and have joint missions fighting the terrorists. But again, that's not what the elite wanted. The elite, they want a confrontation. They want something to start. And that's why they kept placing sanctions on Russia. That's why they used the Russian hacking hoax. That's why they expelled the 30 or so diplomats from the United States. It's about provoking Russia. They don't want peace. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want any of that. Now, out in Ukraine, we're getting reports that Kiev now is hiring foreign mercenaries to fight on the side of Kiev, and they are carrying out criminal orders. And we know from the past, the neocons, the elite, they use paid mercenaries to fight the battles. We see Saudi Arabia has hired paid mercenaries. The United States is using paid mercenaries inside of Syria, called the Islamic State, called Al-Qaeda, the moderate rebels. And they do horrific things to the people because they don't have a stake in this. The only stake they have is getting a paycheck. And they don't care what happens to the people. And while this is happening, what the U.S. government has to do is they have to spin it around and make it look like it's Assad or whatever ruler they're trying to get rid of. They have to demonize that person instead of saying that, oh, it's the terrorists that are actually doing this. But when all's said and done and the truth comes out, we find that, no, it is the terrorists. And we can see right now Assad is out there and he is saying that the Islamic State, well, they were able to recapture Palmyra because they were under the supervision of the United States. Yes, the Islamic State is funded, protected by the United States. Right now, the U.S. and the neocon, the elites, they are doing a mop-up operation. They're trying to disrupt the peace talks. They're doing whatever they possibly can because they want to reach their goal. And it turns out these Syrian White Helmets, or Syria Civil Defense Force, where the mainstream media keeps on quoting them, showing them that they're looking at their humanitarian work and they're saying, look how great they're doing. Well, they are funded by the United States. And they're being used to have regime change. And the money right now is funneled in part by the United States Agencies for International Development, USAID. And what we're seeing is USAID receives the money from ChemOnyx International. And the first award was in the sum of $111 million and has a period of performance from January 2013 to June 2017. The second was in the sum of $57 million and has a period of performance between August 2015 to August 2020. This award was designed to be used in the Syria Regional Program 2, which is part of the support which implements fast transitions. This funding was used, if not entirely, then in part to finance the White Helmets. And it was used to create the illusion that everything was going well for the terrorists. It was to cover up the terrorists' horrific things they were doing. And it was used to blame everything on Assad. And these are all the reports that came out. The White Helmets were also involved in depriving 5 million civilians of water supplies in Aleppo. And the White Helmets, well, they have been committing war crimes. They've been working with the rebel combatants, with the terrorists. And they're on the United States payroll. Yes, they funnel the money through these different organizations. But they do take orders from the U.S. And this is all about getting Assad out of power, which they have not given up on yet. There's still the neocons, the elite, the central bank, they're still trying to do this. Now, today, during the inauguration, we see that everything went smoothly. There were some riots at the Deplorable. There were problems there. We see individuals that were dressed in all black and had black ski masks. They were throwing garbage cans. They were breaking windows. They were trying to get people all riled up. And the protester crowd wasn't as big as they were saying at all. Now, you can see they were trying. They were also protesting outside of Trump's building in Manhattan, Trump Tower, and they were doing whatever they possibly could to try to rile up the crowds, but it just didn't get off the ground at all. And we can see that Trump, when he was making a speech, he was going after the elite, the central bank. He was telling them, your time is over. He said, and this is from his speech, for too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. And while they celebrated in our nation's capital, there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land. And he said the carnage is going to end. He said instead of pushing democracy and pushing our way of lives on other countries, which he means regime change, he says let people see us shine and learn from that. And we can see right now he is pointing the finger to the elite, to the central bank, to all those people who become very, very wealthy in government and who don't care about the people. Well, he's saying your time has ended. And Bix Weir put it perfectly. And I'm going to take what he has said here and read it to you. And you know he talks about the good guys and the bad guys. And he says that we are now getting prepared and ready for pain. The global fiat monetary system, well, it's going to be erasing all forms of false wealth, false power, false governance. It is truly a creative, destructive event that has never been witnessed in the history of mankind. All paper and electronic debt forms of wealth will evaporate in a blink of an eye, completely leveling the playing field in order to rebuild our monetary structures from the ground up. It is a lesson to be learned the hard way, but it is a necessary lesson in order to create a new future for our country, a future built on hard work, complete honesty, and goodwill towards others. Down this road, our founding fathers' ideals patiently await our return. And what he's saying is that we are heading towards a period of time where the globalists, the elite, the central banks, everything that they have done, it is coming to an end. And this is what people have been talking about when they talked about the reset. That we are going to go through some pain right now. But on the other side of pain, things are going to look a lot better. But we need to go through this first. We need to realize that everything that has happened in the past was an illusion. It was fake. And it can't keep going in this direction. Because eventually what will happen, no matter which way you look at it, no matter who was president, they were going to bring down the economy no matter what. And hopefully when this whole entire system is reset, it won't be reset with the central banks. Now we can see that Trump, he's going to try to trap the central bank to take the blame, because that's the main thing that they're working to do. Because the elite, the central bank, they're trying to set up Trump. They want to bring down the economy during Trump's term. They want to blame it on him and say everything that he's done with his economic policy, he is the one who caused all of this. Let us repair this. The other hand, Trump is trying to blame the central bank. He's setting them up. He's talking about bringing back manufacturing, jobs, and bringing back all of this. That doesn't destroy an economy. An economy doesn't get destroyed because you start doing some things here. The economy is going to be destroyed because the entire system was built on illusion. When the illusion crashes down, everyone's going to realize what has really happened. And the only way they can realize what has really happened is how they place the blame. And this is the battle right now between Trump and the central bank and the elites. Because if Trump gets the blame, the elites and the central bank, well, they're going to have the upper edge here. If Trump is able to switch the blame onto the central bank and the elite, he will have the upper hand right here. So this is a battle right now that we're going through. And the problem is that the people, well, they're going to have to go through a little pain. All those people that didn't feel it during 2008, they're going to feel it now. And everyone is really going to feel it because things are going to rapidly change. And the battle is not going to be easy. It's going to be a rough ride. And people are going to be upset. People are going to be pointing fingers. People are going to be pissed off. And there's going to be a lot to deal with when this system comes down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.